Hello everyone, welcome to EduTap and welcome to the success story session. So today we have with us Mr. Lucky who has cleared the RBI Grade B examination. So he is from the physics background. He has done his graduation in physics and he gave his first attempt in 2024 in which he reached till the interview stage. And in his second attempt in 2025, he cleared the RBI Grade B examination. So coming from the non-finance background, we will understand his strategy today that how he was able to clear the examination. So first of all, welcome to the EduTap's channel, Lucky.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me.
Heartiest congratulations to you and how you're feeling. The feeling has sunk in for clearing the examination.
Yes, ma'am, it is beginning to sink in, and it is a feeling of relief, of happiness after about 3 years of effort. Finally, I've been able to clear the exam.
Okay. Okay. Can you share your educational background before starting with the other questions?
Yes, ma'am, I have a degree in physics, a BSc in physics from SGTB Khalsa College, University of Delhi. I graduated in 2023, and ever since then, I've been preparing for this exam, ma'am.
From physics till RBI Grade B, how did this journey start? Because usually coming from the science background, you do not think about like finance, economics, management, and such.
So while in college, I realized that although I did like physics, but it was not something that I wanted to pursue for the rest of my life. So I started looking for other options, and government exam is one natural option. So within government exam, there are avenues like SSC, CGL, then bank PO, and then there was these regulatory bodies exam like RBI, SEBI, and then other exams like NABARD, etc. So when I read about this particular exam and then did some research on it, I realized that it was the subject matter. It was very interesting, and it was also something that I believed I could do, and hence I started preparing for this exam.
Okay. And did you not fear that you will have to compete with the BCom students? You will have to compete with the students that have core finance, core economics background. Was the fear not there?
Yes, ma'am, the fear, I mean, not it was not fear as such, it was indeed a challenge. So for someone who is from BCom background, they will have obviously an easier time studying, let's say, for example, the chapter of accounts. And similarly, for economics background, they would obviously have a very easier time studying economics. But then I think we have to realize that this is a journalist exam. So the syllabus that is there, it is very doable for someone even with a science background, BTech, BSc. So it is not completely undoable. Yes, you will face challenges, but then you would have to ensure that you practice more, you have better conceptual clarity, and with all these things, I think it is doable.
Okay. And can you tell any three challenges that you faced in the journey of preparing for RBI Grade B examination?
So I think number one challenge is obviously consistency. Uh, the preparation for this, there is no guarantee that you'll clear it first time around. So it will stretch. The preparation period can stretch 2, 3, even 4 years. So for that particular period of time, you have to be consistent. And
Hmm.
the second challenge that I faced was in this particular exam, the gap between the phase one and phase two is very less. So you cannot have breaks as such in the especially when the once the examination cycle begins. So it's very important to calibrate your schedules, your study timings in such a manner that you at one time you don't lag behind, but you also don't burn out.
Hmm.
And I think the third challenge was restricting the sources that I refer to, because there is no shortage of resources when it comes to the RBI Grade B exam. There are free resources, they are paid for, and sometimes questions that are asked in exam, they probe you to. You might think that, oh, like for example, geography is something that we have to study now, but then we have to realize that not everything that is being asked has to be answered, especially in
Hmm.
phase one. So in this context, you have to restrict your resources, and you have to also get over this feeling of FOMO that one gets when he sees that, okay, I might miss out, and what if a questions come from there. So this is another
Hmm.
challenge.
Correct. Okay. Now, in your first attempt itself, you reached till the interview stage. So, did you regret, like, or did you think that, okay, in the first attempt, you will not be able to reach till the interview? Or were you clear that, okay, you have prepared well, so in the first attempt itself, you can reach till the interview? But after, like, not clearing the interview, what was the regret in your mind? Or were you happy that at least I reached till the interview?
So, ma'am, it is obviously a mixed feeling, but there was also a sort of sadness, a sort of regret that I had this chance to clear the exam in first time around, but I couldn't do it. I think the main reason was that for the interview stage, particularly for the interview stage, I did not have a strategy as such. My resources that I referred to were all over the place. I did not sit for an
Hmm.
offline mock. So these were the mistakes that I committed. I did not have any regrets as such कि मुझे पता था और मैंने फिर भी नहीं किया. But there was some, let's say, strategic mistakes that I did, and these were the ones that I worked on the second time around.
Okay, can you tell some strategic mistakes so that the other students, they are aware about them?
So I think the first one was that I did not sit for offline mocks. I think when it comes to the interview stage, one must go for at least two or three, or I would say as many offline mocks that one could get their hands on. It is very realistic. Online mocks, although they might be good, but they fail to replicate the environment that one gets in the offline mocks, the waiting period that you have to wait before your interview begins, then in the room, all of these things. I think it is as important as the questions that are asked. And then again, you have to restrict your sources. When it comes to interview, they can ask anything and everything, but they don't expect you to answer absolutely everything and anything. So you have to restrict your resources. Whatever you have read, you have to revise it so you don't forget in front of the board. So these were the mistakes. And then finally, I would say that you also have to practice answering the questions. This is as important as studying the matter. Uh, Studying and reading something and then executing that particular thing in different forms, like for example in MCQ, then descriptive, and then in interview. This is different. So this has to be practiced separately.
Mm. So, very nicely said that you are preparing the same material, maybe, but it has to be prepared in a different manner. Like for the MCQs, you have to prepare in the different manner. For the descriptive, and then for the interview, you have to prepare the same material in the different manner. How you can vocalize whatever is in your mind. That is very good. Now, coming to the point that you said about the burnout, that yes, you can get burnout, especially you had the journey of 2 years, okay? And in this 2 years journey, you might feel burnt out. So, were you following any hobbies? Or were you solely focused on clearing the examination first?
Ma'am, I did have hobbies. I read, I work out, and I was also learning Spanish the whole time. But I would say that don't start hobbies just for the sake of it. If you
Hmm.
have hobbies that have been going on before, so for example, all of these hobbies that I mentioned, they started somewhere either during COVID or during my college period. So you can't force hobbies upon yourself. Don't force any
Hmm.
hobby. If you have hobby, please continue it. Don't stop it for the sake of preparation, because these hobbies, they first of all, obviously they help you tune off from the preparation, the studying part, and they also help you fill your biodata form. It also looks good on that. So my recommendation would be that if you have any hobby, please don't stop it, but don't try to force a new hobby upon yourself just because it would look good on your biodata, because then you will get caught in the interview room.
Hmm. Correct. And your friends, like you cleared your graduation in 2023. So your friends might be doing masters or they might have started the jobs and such. So they might be partying outside, they might be going outside and having fun while you're stuck in this loop of studying and studying after that. And you're not sure that will I be able to clear this year, or will get stuck in phase one or phase two or in the interview round. So, how did you tackle this kind of situation where you see the people going, like, having fun, and you sitting at home and studying and giving your whole in this preparation?
So I think the best way to do it would be to get off social media, to hide whatever WhatsApp statuses that there are. I think that's the best way to do it, because see, these are not only, it will not only drain you mentally, but they are also distractions in a
Hmm.
sense. Everyone has their own journey life. If somebody is pursuing masters, then they will go to college where they'll have fun. If you are preparing for a government exam, then you would have to sit at home, especially if you are not working. and you have to prepare for hours and hours. So I think it's natural, but the best way to do it would be to just log off social media.
Okay. So you were not in social media, you were not using that. Okay.
No.
Now, coming to the next question, that what did you do differently this time than the previous one that you cleared the RBI grade B this time?
I think my strategy for phase one and two was same because
Hmm.
last time around I had cleared both of these phases with I would say comfortable margins. The difference was majorly in interview, and as I said this time, I believe three things were different. First of all, I showed up for offline mocks. I gave two offline mocks, and all of these were very helpful. I also restricted my sources because uh, when overthinking starts during the interview stage, then you begin
Hmm.
thinking, what if they ask me this? What if they ask me that? What if they ask me something else? A random newspaper article, they might ask you from there. Especially you have a science background, then people begin thinking कि जो हमारे फील्ड की न्यूज़ है वही कहीं हमसे ना पूछ ले. So there is no end to it. But then when you give offline mocks, then you realize कि what is a basically a doable field which you can cover. So you should cover that only and then revise it multiple times. If they ask you something that is completely out of bounds, then you can just respectfully say, so that sir, I don't recall, I'm not aware, and I will look into it. I think that's fine. They are very comfortable with that. But if you try to cover each and everything, and in that particular endeavor, you end up not revising whatever you have studied, then you will not be able to answer questions. This is what happened with me last time around. I cover the breadth of a lot of topics, but the depth I believe was zero. So I was not able to answer very simple questions during the 2024 cycle interview. So I think this was something
Okay.
that I changed, and yes, I believe this was it.
Okay. Now coming to the toppers interview, did you also see toppers interview like we are having a toppers interview? So do you believe that the toppers interview are relevant or do you also see them?
Yes, ma'am. I did see a lot of topper interview. See, what happens is the way you should see toppers interview is that you should sit for a couple of days, let's say a weekend, and for that particular period of time, you should just see toppers interview. Leave studying, because when that would happen is when you continuously see toppers videos, you would realize that there are some things that every topper is saying, like for example, revise whatever you have studied, restrict your sources to some of the main ones that you trust, and then be consistent. These are very fundamental that is applicable to not only RBI grade B but any exam that you prepare for. So these are the ones that you have to focus on, and then that you have to follow. Otherwise there are a lot of different strategies. People can prepare for this exam in different ways according to what suits them, but some fundamental principle that you can learn, I think those fundamental principle are very important, and this is something that toppers videos can help you with.
Okay. So the basic idea is that you can have a separate individual strategy. What you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
gain from the toppers videos are is the basic idea around the examination and how your strategy can evolve. So that is something that you can learn. Okay, very nicely said. Now let's move to the strategy part. As we have like discussed the basic idea around the examination, now let's go to the phase one, phase two, and the interview discussion. Starting with your phase one, how was your quant reasoning uh, part? Because coming from the physics honors, coming from the science background, were the quant and reasoning comfortable for you, or did you prepare a lot for these components?
Well, I did not have such conceptual problem in quantitative reasoning and even English. The
Mm,
basic barrier that one faces in an exam like RBI Grade B is time. We have sectional timings, and especially in quant, you have to, depending upon the difficulty of the paper, you have to attempt at least around 8 or to 12 questions. To do
mm,
it, to be able to do it in 25 minutes, you need a lot of practice, and you need a lot of practice under the pressure of time.
mm,
So it was something that I really practiced both in quant and in reasoning. And especially last year, we saw that even the English section, it was also very lengthy, especially the reading comprehension part.
mm.
The terms that were there, the proper nouns, they were very technical. It was almost like a technical manual. Uh, so people were not able to attempt the English section completely. So the main problem in QR and E is time. So you have to practice a lot. Your practice session, once you are comfortable with the concepts, first of all, you have to be comfortable with concepts. Do practice, take your time. But once you have completed your syllabus, then you have to
Mm,
start doing time practice. Basically,
mm,
you have to attempt sectional mocks,
mm.
and you have to arrive at a stage where even before the exam you are comfortable that, and you are confident that I'll be able to at least clear cutoff. this is
Okay.
this is what your mindset should be.
So you said that first you have to clear your concepts, then you have to practice, and you have to give the sectional mocks. Like some of the students, they believe in the reverse engineering. That first we will give. Like I talked to a student who was from the like bachelor's of arts background, BA background, and he said that, "Ma'am, can I do the questions first, and through that reverse engineering can be done?" Like, what do you like? What idea do you have regarding this, or what is your say in this?
I think, ma'am, reverse engineering works when one has already either prepared for an exam or cleared
Hmm.
an exam. So, for example, if someone has already cleared bank PO, they can sit for RBI, they can attempt a mock, then they can reverse engineer because they know the basic concept of profit loss.
Hmm.
So, for example, in SSC, I did reverse engineering because I
Hmm.
had already prepared for this RBI Grade B exam. But when you're preparing for any exam for the first time, I think you have to build your concepts from ground up because there is no point attempting a question of profit loss and discount when you don't know the concept of profit loss and discount.
Yes. So this was the advice that I also gave to the student, that if you have prepared for any other examination, then reverse engineering might work for you. But if you're preparing for the first time, you're not aware about the chapters, that from which chapter a particular question belongs. So you will not be able to do reverse engineering. So just listening this term reverse engineering, it might be very lucrative for you, that you should try it. You might give it a few days, then your confidence will go further down, that I don't know anything. So start from building the concepts. That's a very good idea. Lucky started from his preparation for RBI Grade B, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And then he started from his concepts, then practice, then sectional mocks. So that is the right way. Okay. Now coming to your GA. So how did you prepare for the general awareness section? Because it has so many of the different like documents. It has so many of the different components. There is reports, there is schemes, the simple current affairs, there is the ESI current affairs, finance current affairs, RBI notifications. So how did you prepare for all these components? And the weightage also keeps on changing. So how did you tackle that change in the weightage?
So I think the first recommendation would be to prepare for everything.
Hmm.
Initially, we used to see that when it comes to the GA section, it was the current affairs were on the simpler side. They would not ask very complicated questions. For example, from the government circulars, they wouldn't ask. But then around I think 23 and also 24, which was my first attempt, they were asking questions from RBI circulars in the phase one itself. So I think it
Hmm.
is indeed very important. Although in the last year, 2025, it was again a very simple GA. Not a lot of in-depth questions were asked, but I would recommend you to study all of the current affair. For example, say government scheme related, RBI circular related, and then the general current affair. Prepare all of them. Choose any one resource. It can be your coaching. It can be these services like Affairs Cloud. It can be anything, but stick to your resource consistently. And I think, ma'am, when it comes to coverage for the phase one exam, the GA portion coverage should be 6 months. So I think the last time around the exam was in mid-October, I guess, and I prepared from March. So from March till September and little bit of October. So it boils down to around 6 7 months. So I think this much is enough for
Hmm.
GA for phase one. So
Hmm.
the basic strategy for GA should be to first decide your resource, something that you can trust. You should be convinced that yes, this is enough, and then just stick to it, whatever
Hmm.
happens. And when it comes to mocks, you should take at least two mock test series because it would expose you to a variety of questions. So these two things are important. First, sticking to your resources, and then giving at least two different mock test series.
Okay. So very well said, that first you have to believe a resource. If you have purchased a resource, you have to trust on that. Do the research before purchasing any resource and then trust it. Because if you go to the multiple resources, you will never be able to finish your course or syllabus. So first stick to a resource, study it thoroughly, and then practice a lot and lot of questions. Okay, like sir said. Now, Coming to the, like you said, 6 months of the general awareness. So, were you talking about report schemes and the RBI notifications or the GA section, like the sports awards? How many months of the sports awards and the basic current affairs do you have to do?
From 6 months, I think it is enough.
Hmm.
From for reports, specifically for phase two, when it comes to report, I would say that just start from the year. So from January, I
Hmm.
did it because last
Hmm.
time around, in the 2024, there was a question from a report which was released in January of 2024, and they
Hmm.
asked for that. The question was being asked in, I think, in 2024. The phase two exam was in mid October.
Hmm.
So for phase two, you should take the whole year.
Hmm.
But for I think phase one, 6 months is more than enough.
Okay. Now, coming to the next part, revision. That is a main pain point to many of the students. So, how did you revise for the general awareness? How many times of the revision did you do?
So for revision, I follow the strategy of spaced revision. So
Hmm.
let's say, for example, you studied, let's say the last week, fourth week of March current affair, you studied today. Then you should study it. Then again, you should once revise it tomorrow. Then in a gap of let's say 2 days, then with a gap of let's say 5 days, then end of the week, then end of the month, like that. If you do
Hmm.
it 5 6 times, it will stick to your mind, and you will be able to attempt question. The
Hmm.
test of whether you have revised it well or not is whether you are able to attempt question, because that is the main objective. It's no point of revising 10 12 times and then again you are not able to attempt any questions there. So, and you should do active revision. Don't do just passive revision, then reading and reading again. If you see a topic, then try to recall whatever you have studied regarding this topic. And if it feels very difficult, then you can also try writing it down, because writing also helps. So these are the two things I follow. I follow spaced revision, one day, then gap of 3 days, then a week, then a month, and then I couple it with active revision. That you actively try to recall whatever you have studied. A combination of these, I believe, is enough.
Okay. Nicely said. That spaced revision, that means like at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and such. So you should do some revision in some spaces. And then you also have to do active recall. That is just in your mind. Like passive recalling is just reading the things, while active
Yes.
recall is just recalling in your mind that, okay, this topic, from this topic, what facts you remember. Okay. Now, for the GA again, how important do you think mocks are for GA?
I think I'm very important, because if you see, the questions have gotten a lot lengthier. So
Hmm.
initially, what it used to be like, 25 minutes were enough for 80 questions. Now it might not be the case, because these questions are so lengthy that you might not be able to attempt 80 questions in 25 minutes. So you have to get used to reading very fast, eliminating those options very fast. So first of all, you have to also decide that whether you want to attempt this question at all or not. Then you have to eliminate options if you don't know the exact answer. So all of these requires practice. It's a skill essentially that you have
Hmm.
to develop over time, and it requires practice. And I would recommend that, see, 2 weeks before the phase one exam, or let's say even 3 weeks, if you buy two test series, then it would give you around 20 marks. You should
Hmm.
attempt one mock each day.
Okay.
At the same time you can choose whatever, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever suits you, but you should attempt before phase one, one mock each day, and then analyze it in detail, what went wrong. And you can also use that particular mock to fill your knowledge gaps, because what happens in phase one is that sometimes they ask questions regarding news that is just, let's say, only 1 week back. You might not have been able to get a chance to study in your usual current affairs bundle that you do, but that might have been, you might have seen that question in one of the mock tests. So you should fill your knowledge gaps from there also. And
Hmm.
so in this manner, I think daily mock test before phase one, coupled with the analysis and the filling of knowledge gaps, I believe if you do this, then GA will be taken care of.
Okay. Now let's come to the phase two. Anything that you want to add for the phase one?
I think, ma'am, when it comes to phase one, it all boils down to the skill of attempting phase one. It's not just about whether you have been able to, you are able to solve these questions. You also have to solve these questions within the time that has been
Hmm.
provided there. So I think mocks are immensely important for phase one, and they're very beneficial for phase one also.
Okay. Now coming to the phase two, how did you prepare for the finance and management? Like when you started, uh, was it easy for you or was it very difficult for you? Were you very interested or were you fearing it that, okay, I have like put my hands into something that I should not have?
So ma'am, I was interested to begin with, but I also knew that some of the concepts could be a challenge. So for example, things like futures and options, these are not something that come very naturally, and you have to build a very robust conceptual understanding of these concepts. So again, my advice would be same that purchase a course, stick to it,
Hmm.
trust the course that whatever it covers would be enough for you. Uh, Especially in finance, there is a lot of conceptual understanding needed. So if you can't get that conceptual understanding from that course, then you can refer to other YouTube videos. There is no dearth of YouTube videos as such, but let that course be your basic guiding path. First of all, cover the syllabus. It is easier to cover management because management is mostly theory. You
Hmm.
can make mnemonics or whatever tricks you try to remember that, but it's mostly theory, so it is on the easier side. And then again, ESI is much vaster, but conceptually it is not as difficult as finance. So in ASI 2 you should first cover syllabus, cover government schemes, and in the same manner with space revision and active recall, the first priority in phase 2 should be cover syllabus. And because the syllabus is so large, you inevitably have to cover it before the notification comes, because after
Hmm.
notification come there is almost no time left.
Okay. How many, like for the non-economics, non-finance background, or for the students that are coming from the science background, how many months of preparation do you think is required for the finance and management?
I think, ma'am, to complete the just the syllabus to begin, I'm not talking about answer writing and anything else
Hmm.
now. Just to complete the syllabus, I think we need at least 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Because once you complete the syllabus, you can then start doing answer writing and other things that are required.
Okay. So, if you are from the science background, you require around 4 months for the finance management and ESI static. So now let's move forward with the idea that ESI current affairs, everyone is very fearful of that component in the phase two. Like finance and management, still doable. English, still doable. But when it comes to the ESI current affairs, most of the students were afraid or are afraid. So what like strategy do you have for the ESI current affairs? Do you think that how you prepared for the phase one, the current affairs that you prepared for the phase one will help you in the phase two also? Or what different strategy do you require for the ESI current affairs in the phase two?
Ma'am, yes, current affair are one of the most difficult aspects of phase two. There is no doubt about that. Especially the last this particular exam cycle, the ESI current affair part was indeed very difficult. But then you have to realize that if it is difficult for you and you have studied, you have put in all your effort, then it will be difficult for everyone else. And because this is a competitive exam, then you don't need to think about something that is difficult for everyone else. You just need to have your own, for example, say strategy. My personal strategy was to cover the current affair as they are being given by the course or the coaching, whatever you have bought, attempt questions in the mocks, and then if I am able to arrive at a 50%, let's say for example, if I have there are if I am able to boil it down to two options, then I would take a chance. I would take a guess there, and this was my strategy, and I think it worked because you have to attempt these questions. You can't attempt zero questions because then you would get 0 marks. It is also not that all the questions are difficult. There are indeed many
Hmm.
doable questions, so it is not a completely undoable section, but you have to have a strategy and you need to have the courage to implement your strategy in the exam. And you also have to brace yourself for the fact that that particular section of the exam will be difficult, but it will be difficult for everyone else.
Hmm.
So there is no separate strategy that you need to have for it.
Okay. And the reports, schemes, the RBI notifications, finance current affairs, ESI current affairs, we are preparing for phase one. As well as we have to prepare the same for the phase two also. But in the phase two, there is also descriptive. So, did you have any different strategy for the phase two current affairs, or were you comfortable that, okay, I've studied it in the phase one, I will just revise and that's it?
Ma'am, I think the difference is in the revising part.
Hmm.
So, for example, when you are studying as much holistically, as much comprehensively you can study. But
Hmm.
the moment the notification comes, your brain automatically switches to the phase one mode. So, when you are
Hmm.
revising, you are not looking for the whole story, the reason, the everything. You are automatically looking at what can be asked in objective type question. You start looking for percentages, you start looking for numbers or details like that. But when it comes to phase two, then you inevitably have to revise the whole thing, why this notification came. So, for example, last time around, the priority sector lending was revised. So, in the
Hmm.
phase one, you would only revise the weights that were changed or the percentages that were there. But then in phase two, you inevitably you have to revise why is there priority sector lending to begin with, what is the history, how does it work, and what are the
Hmm.
changes that have been made, why these changes have been made. So it differs by the context of the stage that you are.
Okay. Yes. So you have to rewire your brain as well as you have to rewire your revision strategy from the descriptive point of view now. So in the phase one, yes, you have prepared the same things, but for the phase two, you have to see from the descriptive perspective also that there is also descriptive answer writing that you have to do. And ESI current affairs has massive weightage in the descriptive part. Report schemes are very much tasked. Now, coming to the interview part, like before interview, coming to the English part, did you practice for English descriptive, or you were comfortable that, okay, I have done in like answer writing in my bachelor's and I will be able to do good in English?
I think you should practice in India. Everyone should practice because I believe English is worth 100 marks, which is the same as
Hmm.
FM and same as ESI. So, and the return on investment in terms of the time that you invest and the return that you get in terms of marks is very high. If you practice for Prezi, if you practice for reading comprehension, if you develop a practice for brainstorming these essays that are being
Hmm.
asked there, I think it will give you fabulous returns in terms of marks in the exam. Brainstorming, especially, is very important, especially in the ESI section, because you will not be able to study everything, and there might be a question which you have absolutely no idea of. So, for example, in the this time around, there was a question on multiculturalism.
Hmm.
So this is not something that we as aspirant expect to be asked in the phase two of the RBI Grade B exam. But for someone who had practiced a lot of brainstorming to think under the pressure of time, what all points that you can write here, how can you make it a 400 or 600 word answer that is being asked. I think brainstorming is very important. It is a skill and it will be developed over time. Same
Hmm.
goes for English. The essays that are asked, sometimes they are very easy, sometimes they are difficult. To prepare essay, you should look for other exams like SEBI, NABARD, what is being asked there. You should identify common themes and then you should prepare those particular themes as a
Hmm.
unit. So, for example, you can prepare, let's say, renewable energy as a unit. What are the issues with it, the pros, the cons, what government initiatives that have been taken. All of these things you can prepare it. It would be useful in ASI, in English, uh, both of them. So for English, I would say practicing and brainstorming is very beneficial, and it would give you very high returns in terms of time invested.
Okay. Nicely said that you have to do the brainstorming activity. This is something that we forget. We try to cram everything. We try to remember all the facts that, okay, we have to add facts, and we focus on the like intro conclusion, intro body conclusion that we have to write these points in this. Like you have to sometimes at the point of time you will have to do the brainstorming, so that you have to be aware about. Okay. Now coming to the word limit, many of the students have been asking me that for 400 words, how many words should we be able to write? Like 350, will it be enough? For 600, will 500 words be sufficing? So, what is your point in that?
I think, ma'am, anything above 90% is fine. So, for example, for 400, if you once you cross 360, 380, it's fine. In the actual exam, they actually give you 500 till 620 and 420. So they actually
Okay.
have a very liberal limit. So you can think of it as if the 420 uh, has been given as a very hard limit, because you can't type anything beyond that. So you can in your own mind you can form a band that is 380 to 420.
Hmm.
Between that would be fine. And similarly in anything between, let's say, 580 to 620 is fine. And but one thing that you shouldn't do is that you shouldn't write anything or repeat points just for the sake of word
Hmm.
limit. You can
Hmm.
write, let's say, for a 400 word limit, a 330, 320, even 310 word meaningful answer. That is much better than writing a 390 word absolutely rubbish answer.
Hmm.
So word limit is a need important, but it is not the only thing.
So we can say the quality wins over quantity. If you are writing a quality answer, so 350 plus words are fine, 360, 380 words are fine. You do not have to absolutely touch that 400 mark. 360 word count is also fine. Okay. Now let's come to the interview stage. So that, see, in the phase one, in the 2024, this was the area where you stopped. In the 2025, you cleared the interview. So did you like, what was the unique strategy that you adopted for the interview in the 2025?
So I think, ma'am, first of all, as I said, I sat for offline mocks. I think these
Hmm.
are very important. They make you realize that what the actual stakes are, because sometimes you
Hmm.
don't even realize how big the stakes are until you sit
Hmm.
in that room in front of people who are supposed to take your interview. Online interviews, I won't say they are competitive, but I would say that they fail to replicate that the environment that
Hmm.
offline interviews give you. The waiting outside the interview room, all of these things, these are things that you have to do at the RBI office also when the actual interview day comes. So I
Hmm.
think offline interview in that particular sense, they mimic the actual interview better.
Okay.
So this is
And
something that I do.
okay. So offline interviews, if you are able to get access to the offline interviews, you should, because as per Lucky, that is the best thing that you can do for your interview preparation. In the 2025 interview, how was the interview? How was the actual interview?
I think, ma'am, it was much better than the previous time. I would say about 95% was, let's say, technical or related to banking. They asked me questions about they started with what is NPA, what are different types of NPA, and different classifications of NPA. Are standard assets also classified a certain way? Then what are provisions? Why are there provisions to begin with? Then there was a little bit of HR part. They asked me for strength and weaknesses. Then there was a question regarding which department would I prefer. So I said, this is where you have to preempt a little bit, because if you are saying fintech department, then you have to be ready for it. And I had
Mm.
studied regarding CBDC, cryptocurrency, and all of the news and the conversations that were going on at that point of time. So then ma'am asked me what is CBDC, do I have a CBDC wallet, and what is the utility of CBDC over something like UPI, which all of us use. So these are the questions that I mean, whatever you are saying, you have to preempt the questions that could be asked uh,
Mm.
after that. So that is something that you have to do. And from my physics background, they didn't ask me any direct questions, but they did ask so as to what are the commonalities between physics and finance and economics, and what are the differences between physics and finance economics. Some of indirect question they made me think a lot, something like that.
Okay. So if you are from the science background, or if you are from the BTech engineering background and such, you have to consider this point also, that yes, how your education can help in the domain. Maybe not directly, but indirectly, because you have that different wiring from coming from the science background or arts background or any other background. You have a particular wiring in your brain. You have studied for 3 years. So how that study or how that education can help in the organization. Very nicely said. A very good question that many of the students can also think about. Now, any questions on hobbies in
No,
interview?
ma'am, no coach. No. This time around, or even last time around, there were no questions asked on hobbies as such.
Okay, so we can say 95% was based on the banking and the finance
Yes,
section,
ma'am.
and 5% around the generic questions from your
Based on
background.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and in 2024, do you think that the panel asked you harder questions in comparison to 2025, or do you think that your preparation was in a way, or your confidence was lacking?
I think, ma'am, in 2025, the questions I would say were on the easier side. They asked me definitions that I could not
Okay.
recall because I had not practiced. But in 2025, they asked me, I wouldn't say very hard questions, but they were decent questions. They were answerable questions. They were indeed some questions that I was not able to answer, and they are okay with that. They switched to the next question. But I think the main difference was that this time I had practiced thinking and formulating and articulating my answer before speaking. You cannot just blabber before the board because what would happen? So first of all, you would be speaking anything. There would be no structure to your answer. It would make
Hmm.
very difficult for them to comprehend what you are saying, to make sense of what you are saying. And second, you might say something which will take you in a rabbit hole where you are not comfortable,
Hmm.
and there you would be caught conceptually or whatever. So you have to be very careful of this. It is a very frank conversation. You have to be conversational. Your answer should not look something that has been rote memorized,
Hmm.
but you have to think before you speak. You can take a 3 to 5 second pause. They do not mind. You can even ask them if it is a difficult question. So can I think for a minute or something like that? They allow
Hmm.
you to think, but be very careful regarding speaking. You have to be articulate. Your answer should be structured, and this is what I would recommend.
Okay, like it has been said that for phase one, you have to prepare in a different way for the phase two, phase one, phase two, and for the interview, you have to prepare in the different way. Phase one, MCQs. Phase two, more descriptive, answer writing, articulation, where you have to think about brainstorming and writing the answers. But in the interview, you have to vocalize the idea, so you have to prepare for that. Do you also think that there was difference in your confidence also in the 2024 and 2025 interview?
So yes, ma'am, because see, in 2024, by the time interview approached, I had realized that my preparation is not what I wanted to be. So
Hmm.
I was very stressed and anxious walking into the interview room to begin with,
Hmm.
and that obviously compounded my under preparation. But this
Okay.
time around, I had given offline mock. I had been given very genuine feedback. I had prepared. So this time around, I even prepared RBI circulars, etc., for the interview stage. So in that particular way, I was very confident walking into the interview room.
Okay. So this is the good idea to the students that you have to be like, for some of the students they might go into the interview without much mock interviews. So this is not a good strategy. You should give mock interviews because they provide you with the feedback, with the idea that how you are performing when you are sitting in front of this four panel members or the three panel members and such. Okay. So now coming to the last question from my end, that how EduTap helped you in your preparation journey.
Ma'am, I had opted for the interview guidance program of EduTap, and I think on 30th of January, I gave my first offline mock interview, and it was, to be honest, a very uh, big eye opener for me. The result had recently been announced, so I had not really begun my preparation, but giving an offline mock interview in the very beginning, I think it helped me realize that what are the questions that can be asked from me, given my background, and not only the academic background, but also the fact that I have given a RBI interview. I've been preparing for almost 3 years now. So regarding that, what all questions can be asked, and the environment of the interview that is there. You have to wait before the interview, and then you have to walk in the room. How does it actually feel to sit face to face with members of the board? Things like that. I think it was a very big eye opener. And after the interview, I met Anchit sir there. So we also discussed a lot of things, what went wrong last time around, and what can I do differently this time. And what also helped that, because the period of time that I have from there was a lot, because my interview was on 11th March, and that day
Hmm.
was 30th January, so I had more than a month to prepare.
Hmm.
So from that particular point, I had a rough idea of what to do this time around.
Okay, nice. Now, coming to the end of the session, any message that you can give to the future aspirants who are preparing for the examination?
So I would just say that be consistent, uh, have trust in your resources, restrict your resources. Don't fall into this FOMO of what would happen if this question comes from this particular resource or such. Because see, 80% of the course syllabus, everybody is covering it in the same manner. The rest
Mm.
20% might differ, but then also it boils down to your own execution. How come? How are you revising it? How many times are you revising it? How many mocks are you sitting for? All of these things. So be consistent, have trust in your resources that you refer to, and then again I would say just walk into the room with confidence that yes, I have prepared. Trust your own strategy and trust that you will be able to execute your plans under pressure.
Okay, nicely said. Thank you so much, Lucky, for joining the session and for attending this success story session. I hope many of the students will take inspiration from you, especially coming from the science background. You have cleared the examination, so that is an inspiration for the coming students. Thank you so much for joining the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.